had set up my live for, which is nice. So it's going to take a few minutes for some to get in, but let me go through this opening. Let me open this real quick and go through a few things. So, good morning, everybody. We know that Jerome Powell is speaking at in Jackson Hole and yada yada yada. The jobless numbers came out and they were a little bit. They weren't exactly as expectations, but they were close enough. Um, and if you go into, just so I can show you the exact numbers, it was U.S. weekly jobs claims estimated 226,000. The actual was 235,000. That'll be redacted. So those numbers don't even matter. In a month or two, they just redact them anyhow and change them. Or they reformulate them and then it ends up becoming a completely different number. So that's that. Dan Marginal, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your second month with the Dusty Doghouse Crypto News along with Shane. Jason Whipple, thanks for being in Tom's Army for your 3+ month with the XRP Meteor. Appreciate that. Yes. Jason, the live will fall in between those meetings. I tried to plan it out nicely this morning. I waited a couple minutes to come on, but we'll see what happens. Alex Corbinelli, or Corbinell and Kawabunga, thank you both for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Make sure you go on my YouTube channel and David Hoff as well in Tom's Army for his first month. Make sure all three of you, if you're not in the Telegram yet, go to my YouTube channel, click on the post section, and get the Telegram link so that you can join the I think there's 468 people in there actively right now. 469. We gained another member in there, which is great. It's an exclusive thing for members of Tom's Army. It used to be for everybody, but because of all the spammers and the people that came in there with bad intentions, it took me 4 years to do it the way I wanted. But I'm protecting everybody's their own personal safety and their investments and things like that because there's a lot of spammers, so we have to have some safety features in front of it. Michael, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your second month with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. Chad Somerfield, good morning. Juan Canolis, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Chad, thanks for tuning in from Canada, eh? My brother is to the north and a very small amount apparently to the south where I live in Michigan. Joshua, welcome in. What do I see today, boss? We'll go over that in a second, friend. And salute to you, sir, and thank you for tuning in once again. Loving seeing that name in here. I'm seeing a lot of names here a lot lately that I get to know a little bit deeper here. It's nice. Aurelie, good morning. So glad to see you in here as well. Love seeing you in here. David Hoff says, I am, and it is the best thing ever. You guys are awesome and answer silly questions to advanced questions so nobody needs to feel like they don't belong. And nope, it's an all-inclusive. And my hope is the people that have learned from me will pay it forward and show the same restraint, show the same patience, and show the same understanding, integrity, and kindness that I've shown all of you over the years. And then we can help perpetuate, what we understand in the community. It's a beautiful and special thing that's going on there. There's no doubt about it. But the more good we do, the more we'll be suppressed. So I always need your help in sharing these, liking these lives, circulating these and allowing it to reach the proper audience. But I believe the ones who show up are the proper audience. Chad Somerfield, welcome. And Nick Morales, good morning. And thanks for being a very trusted mod in here. And in the Telegram, but also in the Telegram, being a technical advisor to so many that don't understand, so many trying to learn and being so present, so understanding and so in the moment as you try to, understand the best way to give and receive some of the info. It's a learning curve, but I appreciate all the due diligence you do, and you work a 9 to 5. So, it's a lot of work he puts in there. So some respect when you talk to him in there. But he definitely goes above and beyond. There's no doubt about that. Which is why he's a very trusted mod and admin in the Telegram. And a mod in here in the lives. Chad, good morning. Richard, good morning. Marty, welcome in. Do you still think the bull run is going to happen? Of course I do. All the micro stuff it's all deflectionary. Even if it, like I've said, even if it takes until the first quarter of 26, which I'm not convinced it's going to do that. I think going into November, mid-November, it's going to be all hands on board. Like, we're getting to the point. We might not even get to that point with a very significant drop. We've already dropped. My fears of a 30% drop when XRP was at $3.40. Those have been in the market around it because IOTA was at 25. Algo was at 30. So like some of these, as they drop down, they might not have dropped 30%. Well, I guess if you start to look at it, our fears were that we could have a 30% drop. And even if that's at 22, this is the recent formation. So we would have to go back when the fear started. But if you start looking at this, it wasn't too long ago. And I know we all remember these pushes. Like IOTA back in December had made it all the way up to 60 cents. Like these weren't that long ago, but that's not the drop I'm talking about. We played that whole section perfectly and liquidated all of our, well, it depends if you followed my track. But in January, we liquidated after the top push and we focused on, well, again, it depends what your focus was, but I focused heavily on mining stocks. But retail has ignored the entire sector and they're surging. B2 Gold's about to hit $4 for the first time in 4 years. All of a sudden, and we'll go over the mining stocks, Barrick Gold's gone from $18, $17 when I kept telling it, it's undervalued, it's undervalued. I've got 400 and something tokens or shares of that at that point. And now all of a sudden, it's up to 25 bucks today. You had Pan America Silver just a couple weeks ago, about a month now, it was at 19 bucks. Just past $32. We had First Majestic and Fortuna Silver Mines down around $5 just about a month ago. And where they've, First Majestic is up over 8. And Fortuna's over 7 easily. We had a $5 level, $5.40 on Hecla. Now all of a sudden it's up to $7 and like, well, I don't even know what it's at this morning because they were all going up. Even though gold wasn't moving much, but Hecla's at 771. Fortuna's up 4.4% to 741. First Majestic is up 3% to $8.78. Pan America Silver's up 2.5% to over $32. Silver's over 38. B2 Gold's at $3.93. It feels like yesterday when we were talking about it at $2.32. Barrick Gold's up to $25.47. It's incredible. And these are risk off and risk on assets, and they pay a dividend. The only one on my list that doesn't pay a dividend is Fortuna. But I've created my own ETF with silver and gold miners. Instead of buying into somebody else's fund, I created my own. And I've been very open to everybody that you can join in with what I do. I'm not a financial advisor, and obviously this is for entertainment purposes only. But if you understand what I'm doing and it makes sense to you and you like the sector, please, please, please. You know, the longer you hesitate, the longer, the higher the prices are going to be. And it's just that simple. But what we were talking about with some of these, like IOTA, the pricing coming down, if you look at it just from the pushes up, that was in July. We remember this push in May, but July is when we started talking about like, okay, it's going to be this push down that nobody, is it going to be 20? Is it going to be 30? And like, look at that. It really was a 30% drop there. So a lot of people are like, Tom, do you think it's going to drop more? It's like, I thought it would drop 30% in July. And I have titles going back to July where it says the unexpected 30% drop or the 30% drop. And this is where retail is going to buy the dip all the way down, but they're not actually buying the real. It's such a hard thing to explain. And it can all be a real dip. Don't get me wrong. But most people, when they lose 30%, they never trade again, or they just get out and they never come back. And it's like, I understand that philosophy. Nobody wants to put money in. Let's say you put $10,000 in a month ago, and now you're down $3,000. You know, I get it. But that's why it's more about timing the market rather than time in market. Right now, in this phase, it's about the accumulation of it. If you find them in the right spots, this is absolutely the accumulation zone. It's just, I don't personally like picking up XRP at $2.90. When we had many years to pick it up at 50, 40, and 30 cents. I just don't like it at $2.90. Some people are going to come into the market today and think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and I don't disagree how awesome it is. I just think there's far better values for where we're at right now in the cycle, because XRP, it's going to do you well and proud if you're in it in the sense, but if you start buying it in the multi-dollars, $3, you're going to end up finding yourself more than likely down over time. And then you're just going to have to wait for the next eventual move. This is not the bottom for XRP in terms of where we could have bought it. This is not a bottom of a bear market like a lot of other tokens that might have 1x maybe right now, but they've come back down to just inside of a 1x. And that's not XRP right now. It's not. XRP from its bottom, if you want to talk about these other ones, is up 10x right now because it was down to 28.6 cents at its low. So where some of these are barely struggling to hold on to 1x or 50% now from the bottom, XRP's 10x right now. So you have to look at it in perspective. What's a better deal? Buying XRP when 10,000 tokens will cost you $29,000 right now, as to where before the cycle started it would have cost you $3,000? Or are you better off throwing 10,000 tokens into like $2,000 into IOTA? That's 50, or what is it? It's not even a whole. It's about a 1x move from the bottom right now. You know, or some of these other ones. Like there's a lot of other ones, but you know, it's the same thing. Tom, why won't you buy more XRP? Well, instead of buying XRP, you can look at it this way. We bought 10,000 band on average at 64 cents, which I shared in the Telegram. You can go look at it. I don't like to show it all to the general audience anymore because it rubs people the wrong way and then emotions and yada yada. So I just speak it. So if you look at this, though, it's like we watched XRP go from $3.40, and like we're not making this up. And this, we've talked about it from the points. Then we talked about how it was just way too cheap down here, and we've got to make some kind of move here, even though it's below the support structure. Created that inverse head and shoulders. So, I mean, now if you look at it, you can even go from 65. I don't really care. You're up 31% right now. But if you would have bought XRP at the same time, and we'll line it up, and this is the difference of where you're at in structure. So this was on this August 16th, August 15th, and you can go back to August 3rd where it was at the lower, or here even in June, but that's not where I'm looking. I'm looking in August where everybody in my audience was well aware of what the plan was here. If they wanted to go look at something else, 164 million tokens in circulation, max circulating supply 164.7 million. This is a data oracle, and if you don't know what that means, all that really means is that you have the blockchain, you have smart contracts, and you have external data. A data oracle allows the blockchain to get the external data from a smart contract, and if you know anything about how blockchain works, that's A1 and what needs to happen for prosperity. Not just that, it can be in the Internet of Things, but it's not, because it does so much more than just smart devices. It can do data across any orifice, anything. It can do data from anything, from sports betting to the smart devices to anything. So it's not an Internet of Things specifically, but it absolutely is within the Internet of Things. You know, it can run all the same applications. So when we talk about this, this is up 30% from here, while at the same time, I was getting questioned of, well, how could you buy that, not XRP? I already own XRP. It's not the proper. I bought XRP that I hold and XRP that I sold. I bought $5,000 worth at 38 cents right in front of the audience. That's all been sold at an average of over $3. The other 10,000 tokens that I am never selling, that sits in the XRP house, I don't care if it goes back to 34 cents. I've already made what I need to make. This just sits here until XRP eventually does what it's going to do. But at the same time, it's like you talk about early August, and in early August, you know, same time frame, August 8th, when we were at with 30% gain in band, if you were buying XRP at the exact same time, you've lost 14%. That's a 44% differential. So, Tom, why would you buy band instead of XRP? Because it's in a different spot of the formation, period. Band is so undervalued even where it's at now, and sure, it could come down 50% from here. But XRP is going to go with it. The point is there's better opportunities where we're at. And I can point this out across the board. It just rubs people the wrong way. But I'm trying to find people the proper deal, the proper setup. And XRP absolutely still going to go higher. My target hasn't even been met yet for this bull cycle at 549 or 539, depending on where it sits. And some people are like, that's all you think XRP is going to go is 549. No, the cycle. Every start has a finish to a cycle. When we measured XRP before the cycle started, and everybody thought I was fucking out of my mind. So it's funny that they think I'm out of my mind now because I don't think it's going to go higher this cycle. But when I said it at 35 cents that it was going to 549, or when I said it at 60 cents that we were going to these levels, people thought I was off my fucking rocker. People are unsubscribed. I had a 280 unsubscribe day on YouTube when I suggested XRP was going to go to $5.49 when it was at 50 cents. And I said, we're done with this, Budster. Or when I said we were going to 350, building this massive cup and handle, while everybody said we were going sub 20 cents and we are going to go into the bearish of bear. But now because we're getting closer, now because it's only that high, people still say the same thing. Sorry, I said this 20x before it got to those numbers. I thought it was a real logical target. And it's proving me to where we're in the realm of possibility to where that can be that can happen. Bitcoin, I talked about 122,100 at the same time. It hit 122,000, like 123, and so far it's topped out around there. That was our technical target. Yes, if that rising wedge would have held up for Bitcoin, or if it invalidates this drop, technically we could go to 143. But let me say something here. When I had a target to start the bull cycle, there's a reason why it was a target. This newfound target of 143 was only if that rising triangle broke bullish, or rising wedge. It's breaking down, which means the target is 91 or actually 81K. If this actually rounded and this breaks down, unless all the money's flowing to Ethereum and altcoins, what do you think most of the like XRP within the same like it's one of those things, like you don't want to get caught in a trap and you want to find opportunity. And my main argument is, are you only buying XRP at $2.90? When most of you who say you're buying it now were in the audience, I know your names, you know me. I like how it switched my Bitcoin to BRC and reach to Ratch. It always does that on YouTube. Because I can't see it because it turns it sideways, so I have to do it with my screen sideways. It'll change the stuff right before I post. And I even have it check it. It's so funny how it does that. I notice this all the time. All the time. Anyhow. But are you just buying XRP because of FOMO? Because if you had the opportunity to buy it at 34 and 50 and 60, how on God's green earth can you sit here and buy it at $2.90? Or $3 and it doesn't even make sense. If I offered you a house for $100,000 and you said no, and then I offer you the same house for $400,000 a year later and you say, oh yeah, it's great deal. I mean, come on. You're paying me $4 for every dollar that it was actually worth. Like right now, you're paying $10. $10. Hell, let's be generous. You're paying $8 for every dollar you should have spent back a year ago. But now you're justifying buying every token that's eight times more expensive. I don't understand. And that's what I always tell the audience. Please explain it to me. But continue to harp down this. We're going to look at the opportunity and we're going to look at the charts. Good morning. 11:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Thursday, August 21st, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. Oh yeah, we're going to get some jockeying here for sure. Mid-August through the end of September is the most bearish time historically in crypto. September, believe it or not, is the reddest month in crypto's history if you just look at the data. Some people get mad when I say that, but how are you going to argue it? That's the data. I don't make it up. I can't make up the analytics. Those are already built in from past performance. So hopefully maybe it'll do something different this September. You don't know. But if we get a rate cut in September, it's going to blow up fucking crypto. And I don't mean to the downside. Crypto would go ballistic. If we get a rate, and I don't think it's going to be a 25 or 50 basis point this next time. I'm thinking they're going to aim for like 100 basis points. Do you know what would happen to gold and silver the moment they do that? Risk assets will go, at least initially. You'll have that calming phase, but that's what we're building into. So now it's more like we know this is coming long term. So now it's all about you have to find your opportunity. I keep saying it. You have to find it because even with these down days, look what happens. IOTA went up 8% today, yesterday. And now today, yeah, it's down a few percent, but it's making it harder and harder to find the better deal. Like this inverse head and shoulders was not invalidated. The right shoulder can absolutely pull down farther as long as you don't invalidate the inverse head. There is no rule that says the inverse right shoulder has to stay higher than the left. In fact, I think it shows a lot of strength when it plays out in that fashion if it can hold. Yes, there's a higher chance of probability or higher probability of breaking down when the inverse right shoulder comes through, of invalidating it, but if it holds, it's a lot stronger. And look, when we first did this, we targeted a little reversal around here. It happened a little bit higher up at 23.7. We came down to about 23. And then we have that, there's a target at 22, which we didn't want it to break through 24, let's be honest. Because it would invalidate that structure if it comes down any farther than where I drew that. So, but there's a lot of stuff building right now. So we'll look at the news from Jerome Powell. Obviously, we have to look at that guy. But it's not going to be good, I don't think, this morning. I don't think it's going to be good. We know the jobless claims are higher, but it's not even as high as it should be. What time is this friggin' speech? Let's see. Dow's down 161 points. S&P's down 23. NASDAQ's down 77. So right now, I mean, it's starting a little rough, that's for sure. Risk assets, I would not expect anything different with this bum talking. Oh yeah, I mean, it's gonna. Let's see. They had a Federal Reserve chair speaks at Jackson Hole.
Welcome back. Investors are on Fed Watch this week ahead of Jerome Powell's annual Jackson Hole speech.
I seen one that said updated 25 minutes ago, but that is definitely not updated. Is it? No, because that's from yesterday.
Investors are on Fed Watch this.
How's it going to say that? YouTube is such a pile of shit now. I mean, it's been for a long time, but it's getting really stupid now. You should see what we have to go through as just trying to get our data out here now and trying to put stuff. I have to go through so many stupid classes to put my content out now because they try to restrict me every other fucking week, it feels like. Let's see. So, I mean, we're falling right now, big time. And we can see, like, the markets don't look great above. And right now, IOTA... You know, if this comes down a lot farther, right now, I'll be honest, in the daily, this doesn't scare me at all because this could just be creating the reversal from the red, and then it comes down, tests the low, and then it reverses quickly. And we still have the golden cross in the daily. We have that inverse head and shoulder setup. Until this gets invalidated, you know, you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place if you want IOTA. Because this could be a grounding point, just like with XRP. Been sitting at this 289, 288 area, which is a support. If it falls through, it's got 278 to 282 range. But same with Ethereum. Yeah, it's down 2.26%, but all it's really doing is back testing exactly what it needs to do. 4,233, like if you're in the Telegram, I shared this morning. It needed to back test 4,233 to see if we're even bullish this morning. If not, that bearish cross is going to play out in the 4-hourly, and this is just going to come right back down. But we're trying to see if this is a formulated breakout that can hold, because we came all the way back down near that 4,000 range yesterday, which is exactly what we needed to do. We came back down to that's 4,080. There's a support there. But we came back down there and we held the bottom of the channel. The technical move on a channel hold here is 4,484. You don't hold it and you come all the way back down, you come down to that 3,993 support more than likely if it breaks through. So, I mean, that's what we're looking at. If Ethereum can hold 4,233, we're looking at a short target of 4,484. That doesn't mean that, we're going into this ultimate bull season. It just means we'll have a couple $100 move on Ethereum. It'll help the altcoins in a sense. But remember, we've dropped like 15 to 30%, if not more, across the board, depending on token. XRP in the last 2 weeks is down 15%. IOTA is down 33%. Algo is down. And look, that could be a bull flag V-shaped recovery with an inverse right shoulder forming on a back test. That's what we don't know. On a much wider inverse head and shoulders. So I just want to go back to August, this area. Hell, we can even go back to August 14th. We could go back to July 21st. Oh, let's just go from August 14th. We're down 12.8 from where this peaked up here. And this is just in 1 month ago. So yeah, so 1 month ago on Algo, in 1 month, Algo's down 25 right now, but it was down 30. Like all these 30% moves we were fearing, they actually did happen. It's so crazy that they actually happened and we're waiting for, it's like, what are we waiting for? Like we were supposed to, so like some of you, if it wasn't at the right time after that 30% drop, you were supposed to start to bounce into certain things. That's why when I put all that stuff out about band, I was a little disappointed that I got so much backlash. What do you mean? It's not IOTA, it's not Algo, it's not XRP, it's not this, it's not that. I don't only talk about those things, and sometimes I like to expand for the audience on what I know. And band's a big example of it because it's not talked about. I don't even know anybody who talks about it. Sean's one who enlightened me some time ago, and then I tried to enlighten the audience after I did the proper research and waited for the proper drop down into that inverse head, what it looks like. But if it drops down to another layer for the rest of the market, now band's got to drop 30% just to get back down to that 59. It's got to drop 25% to get to the 64 cent, So just to get back to where the opportunity was for us before, it's got to have this huge drop. And I don't know how much the rest of the market is going to drop just because Ethereum does its thing. Certain things were way on the top heavy side. But I'm not surprised that this is happening in the market. Really, I'm not. And I've been doing my best to try to keep us all ahead. It's very difficult. As Nick knows, it's very difficult when you try to teach the micro and macro. I know Nick likes to stick to the macro for good reason, because you try to tell somebody the micro and then all of a sudden they take that as verbatim for the macro and they start position-wise basing their long-term bags on a micro move when really your bag should only be dependent on a micro move for entry or your short-term exit strategy after a big bullish move. Like if you think the macro is coming to an end, you look in the micro for some clarity. But that's not the case here. The macro hasn't even started yet for alts. Aside from XRP, Solana, and a few others like Ethereum, it hasn't even started. Alts, nothing has happened with alts. So we're in a very opportunistic time, but also a very dangerous time because it's all going to depend. I believe XRP is going to be the deceiver of this cycle. I've said it since it was at 360 and everything else is in these ranges to buy, but we're ignoring. And now XRP is at 288. While the other ones continue, some of them are much higher than when XRP was at 360. Some of them are equalizing. While XRP continues to kind of punch everybody in the face who bought it late. You don't want to buy up here. The philosophy is supposed to be buy low, sell high. Unfortunately, retail buys high, sells low. Because when it's low, they're too damn afraid to buy. And when it's high, they won't sell. Because they're like, hey, I only bought here and I'm only up 7%, but I know it's going to infinity. Or we convince ourselves that I'm going to buy here because I got the long bag. I'm going to hold it forever. I don't care how low it goes. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Hello? Hello? Yep, this time. Like white peaches? Are they still yellow? No, I mean, are the peaches still yellow that you're picking out? Because they're either yellow or white peaches. That's the only kind they have. Yeah, if the... I mean, yeah. Oh, no, I was just saying, because it'll say yellow or white peaches. I don't like white peaches, so that's why I only get yellow. So if they don't have the yellow, just refund it. Yeah. Yeah, well, if they say yellow peaches, they're yellow peaches. Michigan yellow should be yellow peaches. Oh, wait. Hold on one sec. Let's see. Yeah, these are yellow. These are yellow peaches. If you... Can you just make sure they're like harder peaches, like when you're going through, not soft, like if they have them. But yeah, those are absolutely fine. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
Everybody knows that you hate white.
Are you kidding? You can't tell the difference between... Guys, this is where we're at in our society. She couldn't tell if they were yellow or white peaches. Literally, a yellow peach is yellow. A white peach is white. It's not... And she said it said yellow peach on it. Hello? No. But that's every day. So that's what I deal with for peaches. Now I deal with the same kind of questions when it comes to crypto. When I'm dealing with the audience, it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure what we're looking at sometimes. Like I just don't understand. Like a yellow peach is yellow, and a white peach is white. And then I say, does it say yellow or white? It says yellow. And then she sent me a picture. Like, yes, those are yellow. Thank you. Anyhow, let's get on with this. Marty, good morning. Adam Reynolds, welcome in along with Jacoby. Thank you both for being in Tom's Army for 6+ months with the XP Predictor. UK Phil and 2 Ravens, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Kyle Kupiak, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Approaching the 2-year badge. Cape Cod Kyle from Massachusetts. Phenom, welcome in. Leisha, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your 2nd month with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. M. Bird, welcome in. Bearded Viking, thank you so much for rejoining Tom's Army for your 2nd month with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. Are you kidding me? You can't figure out peaches, man? Oh, good. She gave me a plantain banana. And one of my regular ones and substitute it with plantain. A plantain banana is not a... Whatever. She can do whatever she wants. Here you go, Julie. Whatever I get, I'll be happy with. Crypto Cooter, welcome. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XRP Predictor and a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. Our newest one, as a matter of fact. John Page, welcome in. Let's see. Cowabunga, I appreciate you being in your 1st month. Says, who knows how long it will take to get their butt. We all have an idea. Yep. I agree. I think we need another 15 to 20. It depends. It depends. It can catch you off guard here, too, and just surge a little bit and then have that 15% correction after a push. But, you know, we had a push up yesterday, and now XRP was close to 306 yesterday. Now it finds itself 17 cents down again. So, you know, that's a 5.5% correction on XRP just from yesterday's highs. Let's see. Ben B, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XP Predictor. Let's see. Agony, good morning. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Agony. A lot of people buy at these points. They think it's going to $100. Well, not even that. They think it's going to $1,000 because that's what every influencer says, you know. Oh, he doesn't speak till tomorrow. That's interesting. So you're telling me the Fed meeting at Jackson Hole is at the same time as the crypto conference? How interesting is that? How interesting is that? Yeah, we don't know when if they're gonna raise rates in September, but when they raise rates, it could go all the way until Q1 of 24. But when they do raise rates, it's gonna be at least, I think, 100 basis points. Maybe they'll do 75, but you know, it's an interesting dynamic. September was the first area I thought they could actually cut rates. I didn't think they would do it the whole year until September was the first opportunity. So we'll see. There's no guarantee, but I would give it a 65% chance that September compared to when I was giving it 0% chance before September. That's a pretty big jump from 0 to 65. At least there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance, albeit it's not the right chance because once they raise rates, it makes it worse for all of you and I. Oh my God, risk assets goes up, but our savings rate goes down practically to zero. Oh, that's a winning formula. And when they lower rates, what do you think everybody's going to do when they see housing rates actually go up and car rates go up and insurance and loans go up? I thought it's supposed to go down when you lower rates and not go up. Wait till you see that diversion. When they're lowering your savings rate, but everything else is going up, and we're all, oh, thank you, Fed, thank you, Mr. Trump, for fucking us even more. But hey, we don't have to pay as much interest on. Oh, wait a minute, we do. We're just not getting as much of a payment for the money we already have. Isn't it funny how people are so disillusioned and so minute in their own thinkings now that they actually think it's a good idea when you owe $35 trillion to lower rates? It makes no sense. And that's why we stay broke as retail. Retail couldn't give a rat's ass about mining stocks. They haven't since I started talking about them. And that's just outperforming. And yeah, that's going to be due for a correction too. But now it's going to be, I don't know. I see the same thing lining up. You know what I see lining up with crypto by 28 or 32? And that's why we have to take advantage of it when it's proper. With all of these regulations coming in 28 after Trump comes out, with all of the buying now in a Ponzi of being countries, corporations, leveraging their companies with common stocks and diluting their own companies to buy Bitcoin, countries putting their own funds into Bitcoin. What do you think the number one way to drop the hammer on the entire world and bring in a universal income would be? Just think about it for a sec. I don't know, maybe all the countries buy into all this shit. They leverage everybody's holdings, their own state. And what happens the first time crypto has its 70% correction like it always does? Is this another dot-com bubble from late 90s, early 2000s, where there's way too many competition, way too much of a price hike, and way too many corporations putting their last dollar into it, just like retail? I hear so many people in retail that have no idea what crypto is, and I'm going to buy Bitcoin at 113. Are you fucking stupid? I just ask yourself, are you stupid? If you're not, then think about it. Why would everybody tell you to buy something that's at 113,000 and you knew about it at 25? You knew about it at 15 in the last bear, but now again, is it because somebody's telling you to buy it? Is it because the price is, do you think that Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million? Because I got something, if Bitcoin goes to 1 million, we are screwed. There's something else that's so freaking wrong. But I think that's how they're going to have the next dot-com bubble. It's going to be crypto. I really do. I think crypto is going to have a point where it just goes, it's too top heavy and then 99% down for most. So we've got to ride it when it's appropriate. This is the world's largest Ponzi scheme being developed in front of you. Satoshi Nakamoto, anybody who believes that is a fool. Bitcoin wasn't created by one doofus. It was created by the United States government, and that's why it's doing what it does. And today I'm talking a little strong, but there's a reason why. We're in that time of deception. The great deception is upon us. Risk assets is your best bet in a risk-on environment. Huh. Not sure I believe that. However, there are certain assets within risk that are utility. That's why I don't talk about meme tokens. Because that's going to get you in trouble down the road. This next chapter is going to be IoT and ISO utility based. Yes, you're going to have the RWA. And really the only real player in town for that is Epic. But, you know, all good things come to an end. So if you're buying Epic just because it was way up there, you got to see a quick reality of a double top. Unfortunately. And now a correction here. And some people I know were buying it at $3 in my own community saying, I'm going to hold this because I believe in it. Not buying it at $1.64 when it came down to our target. And now they're down 17% saying, what the hell is going on? I hate crypto. A lot of people 2 days ago weren't buying the red, but yesterday when we had that 5 to 10% surge, they were buying the surge. A lot of people didn't buy BAM. They bought it on that 18%. Like, I don't understand. I do, but I don't. It's psychological. And I try to understand deeper. And for the ones who follow my ramblings like this, there's a reason I speak this out and talk it out. Because they use the psychological warfare against us. So if we can get ahead of it, we won't be as affected. But we are at critical points today. We are absolutely at critical points today. Bitcoin, underneath that rising wedge, huge reversal today. Again, filled out our first target, but if that fails, you've got that support at 110, 106. You could say 102. But if this rising wedge breaks down, we're going to 81. Doesn't matter what we tell ourselves. If it breaks down officially and it does what it does, it would go to 81. And if Bitcoin went to 81, which I'm not sure if it's ready yet to do that or not, that would be conditional with 106 actually falling. You know, and then going through that FVG at 91, which if we go to 91, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump to 81 at that point. Let's see. Jason, welcome in. Frankie Fresh, good morning to you and Janine, and thank you for being in Tom's Army for over 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Nick says, currently they're talking about whether or not 50 basis point cut is too much or just right. Jason says, I think I have 3,000 XRP. What's the worst that can happen? Or you don't want to know what the worst that can happen is. Right now you're looking at 250 if it were to break down. Or if it breaks that, well, obviously there's a long skip and a hop and a jump to the FVG at $1.50. We got gaps all, it depends what the market does. Worst case scenario, you end up at 1.8 cents. If you want to be real, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's worst case. You said worst case scenario. That's worst case scenario. I don't think that's going to happen. But you know, if you're looking for gaps, that's the worst case scenario, I believe. Nick says if we close this month red, odds of a green September are likely. Maybe. By design, September is never a good month. And then October usually starts to round it about. Last year was the same thing. September, October kind of was no man's land. Then it started rounding by the end of October, early November. And by the second week in November, we were off to the races. I think we're going to have a similar... I think mid-November would be a good area to start getting hot. It usually does before Christmas time. But it's not because of a Christmas rally. Usually by Christmas, they dump it. They do it because of positioning for the big business and ones for tax... There's tax harvesting, tax farming. I don't know. I would like to believe that September would be green if we end red. Frankie says you got to go with your gut. Nobody can tell you what to do because nobody really knows. No, nobody really knows in an essence, but you do know. I don't like when we say we don't really know. You know. You know. There's no way we could have predicted bear market to bull market to bear market to bull market. And then the top of in January being able to sell like that. It's impossible if you don't have some kind of understanding. It doesn't happen. We weren't accidental by buying before a bull run, selling before the dropout, buying again on the very bottom of a bear market, and selling out at the top of this procedural bull market again. In the sense we could. There's no way you do that by accident. Technical analysis is a lot more important than people give it credit for. The technicals are so fucking important. The technicals will tell you what you're going to see in the news and more. I didn't know it until about 15 years ago, but the charts actually tell you all the news. So you already know what's going to happen based on the charts. Oh, big drop coming here, but what's going to happen? Oh, an escalation of war, big drop happens. Oh, looks like a big rally's going to happen. Then you get some weird news by the president about crypto, right? Or you get some kind of weird tweet or some kind of weird news that comes across the board that is positive. And then you're like, oh, well, now we're looking for a dip. And then you see all of a sudden this bill didn't pass. And then they always make it look like that's what's causing the market to move, but in reality, it's just the fundamentals and the technicals. It's true. They're trading bots, trading algorithms. That's why they have to repeat the pattern over and over. Just like these inverse head and shoulders. Look at some of them. Look what Band did before it broke this out initially. You had this wide inverse head and shoulders, right? We talked about how the right side can be lower than the left. This is a perfect example. Bounced up. Had a nice move, consolidated back down to the breakout, back test, pushed out, back testing the apparent neckline here, which technically it could come down to 80. It could come down to, actually, I would say about 80. It doesn't even need to come down because you had this wick here that it's already hit. So technically we don't know, but The point is that inverse head and shoulders was able to play out even though this right side and the micro came down farther. So it's a good way to just show, because we had questions about if the inverse head and shoulder can play out to the, it absolutely can. So, and that's a good example of it. But now you look at some like Dent, you see the setup that band had? Look at Dent now. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder's a little bit elevated in comparison from over here. And then you start looking at the micro, left shoulder, head, right shoulder if this plays out. But if the inverse head and shoulder stays and we stay above somewhere around this area, it kind of is setting up like Band did. It had an extended consolidation on the right side before it could finally break out. And if you look at it, you know, in whole, it took a while. Now, does it continue out? That's the question. Or did Band do what it did to gain 35% in a week or two, just so that if we have a 30% drop in the market, it stays stable? It happens a lot with tokens too. Like, you'll think you're going to get this much better deal, but when they're, you know, within 20% of their bottom, they'll have artificial rises up so that they can drop back down for the drop. You know, and then they don't go too far. And that's how you can stay within a 20% range, even though you have this wild market movement. James Zula, welcome in. As always, go to the gym, bro. Good morning. It is a great day, and I love this chat today. Let's see. Can we add a 3 to the 2 on the price? What does that mean? Can we add a 3 to the 2 on the price? Oh, you mean XRP? I mean, that would be nice. $32. Nick says that's why I just focus on the monthly to let me know if I should look to sell or buy. That's a great way to look at it. The monthly's not going to lie. There's so much data within the monthly, you're going to know. Sure, can you have a big movement in the monthly? Yeah, but you know we have these retests and stuff like that that gives you a... I always tell everybody, when you get a 30% drop, don't sell it if you didn't sell it. You always get the mount back up to retest the drop point. It always happens. Always. Because you have to have validation, and you always get exhaustion. Jason says, unfortunately, I had to sell my 10,000 XRP I bought at 30 cents. Well, it might be unfortunate, but where'd you sell it at? If you bought it for 30 cents, what'd you sell it at? It may not be unfortunate.
He's played right on his card.
100,000 XRP Moonbag. Thank you for the $2 donation. Says, dude, I own 105,000 XRP. 50 cents. We will see $10. I'm not disagreeing with you. That's always been my target, was that $10 to $20 move. But that doesn't, what is that? Well, I don't know what you're trying to say. Are you disagreeing with my $5.49 cycle target? Or are you saying in time we're going to get to $10? I agree with that. But if you own 105,000 XRP and you bought it at 50 cents and you've never taken a single dollar, fundamentally you're not an investor in the right way. You should at least have your bottom line back. So if you bought 105,000 tokens at 50 cents, you spent about, let's be fair, $55,000. And right now it was upwards of over about, well, your $55,000. At one point it turned into about 300. If you're sitting here and telling me you didn't take any money out of that to pay yourself the 50, you're not doing it right. Because in theory, you should have 75,000 XRP right now fully paid for. I'm not being a dick, and I'm not telling you that you're trading wrong. I'm just saying fundamental, if you want to build over time and actually make real money in a risk asset, that's how you have to do it. You 5x'd it. No, you $1, $1.50, $2, $2.50, $3. You 6x'd it. So your 55,000 was over 300,000. So with that philosophy, and this isn't me picking on you. This is what I teach my audience. So I would have, you're on 18% or 20, you'd have 80,000 tokens left right now and fully have paid yourself back. Now I could be like, my friend, I have 80,000 tokens. I bought it at 55 cents, but I sold out enough to completely pay myself back my 55 grand I paid. I'd say, holy shit, you're the man. Not that you're not the man right now, because that's a significant value right now still. 55 right now is worth... It's got to be 230 to 250,000 still. So you're ripping it. But if you're watching and you're somebody who's trying to understand how to build through risk, now if you took that 55,000 back, look at the opportunity. Maybe you don't own something like Band, or maybe you don't own something like IOTA and some of these other ones, or the ISO or IoT. Now you can start to make your XRP work for you. That's all I've done. I may not have XRP in the same amount, but I'm fully paid for, and it's fully paid for me to get into so many different tokens that have now overachieved and been able to rework it again. But that's proper fundamentals. Some people will never sell, and I understand. And that's how you end up in bull market to bear market and never paying yourself back, never reevaluating, never expanding the bag. You know?
He said you were right when you're the reason for
Huh?
that 50. He sent you $2 million.
Oh, I'm gonna. But I don't know, obviously, if he had more than that before and sold.
Well, I'm just saying, he sent another comment.
I sold at 243 again. That's fine. What's wrong with that? But you bought at 30 cents for $3,000. You sold it for $24,000. And you had to pay for your car and other things. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You did really good. You bought something at 30 cents. You took a flyer and you were able to turn that into 8 times what it was worth. For every dollar you put in, you got $8 back. You are a winner. That's a win. Now you have other opportunity. If you're like, I can't bear the fact that XRP's at 289, start looking at its counter studies like XDC at 8.2 and see if it can hold this exhaustion double bottom. If it has to come through, then you're looking at 7.2. Don't get demoralized. I'm telling you, there's so many opportunities, and I still think that 7.2 is probably on tap. But we have to make sure that exhaustion that came down on that wick and it exhausted itself back down actually falls through at 808. Or look at the opportunity inside. I still think VeChain is so freaking cheap, which is why I'm building into it on the group trades, but you have to be in the Telegram to know about that. And I hope this goes down 15 more percent, because then I can throw another $250 at that bag, or another 400, or whatever the case may be, until it's time. But there's opportunity out here. You know, there's a lot of opportunity. You did great though. I would never be mad if I was you. You turned $3,000 into 24th. Would you be mad, Julie? That's a hell of an accomplishment. And how do you know it's not going to come below 240? Like right now, maybe at 360, you're sitting there ripping your hair out. But at 289, you're sitting there and saying, oh, that's, you know, after taxes, that's only a couple $1,000s now. Differential. You know, so you're not in as bad of a spot as you did a great job. You can't just hold on to risk assets if you have something else you need it for, especially when you appreciate like you did by 8 times. You 8x'd it. Now I think it is tomorrow. Oh, they're not going to raise rates. Are you kidding me? The government's never going to raise rates in this environment. No, it's not a question of raise rates or lower. It's a question of, do they stay the same in September and wait until 26 to lower rates? There's 0% chance they're raising rates. Let me be clear. Don't even think of it. There's 0% chance they're going to raise rates. That's what they should do. If I was in charge, my first appointment, I would raise rates by 2,000 basis points. Oh, you heard me right. I would come in and the very first thing I did as the Fed chair and I'd get fired. I would raise rates by 2,000 basis points. That means 20%. But what that means overnight is if you have $100,000 in the bank, your saving rate in the bank, you make 20% a year, which means you'll make $20,000 a year on your 100,000. We didn't used to take out a loan to buy a car, ladies and gentlemen. That's the biggest that's the biggest deception that's been given to you. Take out a loan for your house. Take out a loan for your car. Take out a loan for your phone. Take out a loan for your furniture. Take out a loan for the TV. You know when you take out a loan, you're indebted. You're a slave to the lender. Do you know the number one way to become slaves is by borrowing money? So how many of you have a house payment, car payment, phone payment, truck payment, computer payment, fucking furniture payment? appliance payments that you are paying because you couldn't afford what you bought, but you're on payments. You are now a slave to the lender, and you will never be able to get away from your job. You have to switch to the debt-free lifestyle. Dave Ramsey taught me a lot about that over the last decade, and I fully implemented that. I do not like debt. I will not borrow against my paid-off house. I live well below my means for a reason. I want to get to 100K XRP Moonbag says, with the $2 donation, you're right. You're the reason I bought it at 50 cents. Excellent. That's excellent. Just send it. Thanks for your donation, or thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. Hey Tom, good morning. I'm just curious. With how market conditions is at the moment, are you exposed? I'm exposed to some. Liquid on some, but exposed to some. I was liquid 70% ago. After we had the big run up and I got criticized. So now is the time of accumulation when it gets the proper spots. I'm absolutely exposed to ban from 64 cents. I'm exposed to a few of them. I don't sell algo from where I rebought it back. I don't sell certain things, but I'm not going to go into it deeper than that. What I do should not be dependent on what you do, because I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not an asset manager. So how I manage my own money has no bearing on how you manage your own, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have exposure where it needs to be. You know, my 38-cent bag of XRP is no exposure because it's gone. That $5,000 got sold, worth of it, when it was over $3 on average. My 34-cent bag, full exposure. The initial bag, full exposure, not going nowhere, even if it goes back to 34. Algo, I don't care where it goes. Started buying it at 8, sold it at 60 or what was it, 60? I don't remember where it went. Sold it really high. On this push up back in January. And then I think it was 60, somewhere around 60, 55. And then now when it came down under 20 and I start looking at it, now I'm trying to build in this inverse head and shoulders here. If it breaks down, well, then I'll sell it and I'll try to rebuy at 7 or 8 cents. That's my philosophy right now on certain ones. My same philosophy on IOTA. My same philosophy on a couple of them. But, you know, you need to... It's a good question, but at the same time, you can't have bearing on it. I speak what I have my feelings about. I don't speak about the portfolio necessarily as much as I used to, because I started getting unfair backlash because people were getting jealous or people were thinking that they didn't have enough or had more than enough. I don't know. So I try to stay away from that central focus. But yeah, I'm going to go. Have a blessed day, everybody. I try to be as honest as I am as honest as I can be. H-bar price target for I don't do 12-month price targets. That's dumb. I think anybody who gives you a price target over 1 year, they don't know what I might give you a generalized price target if it plays out, but there's no way to say it's going to be a good or bad or what it's going to do in a year. At 24 cents, was it a bad buy? Maybe. Overall, no. When it finally plays out, because we have an overall target. And yeah, it can be higher, but as we evaluate it like XRP, $1.12. So would it feel bad at 24 cents at $1.12? No. Could it feel bad if it comes down to 14, 15? Yeah. 17.8? Maybe. But if this plays out in an inverse right shoulder, you basically are at the floor right now on a flag. That's the thing. We have an inverse head and shoulders. You have a bull flag set up. You have a golden cross here in the daily. That's back testing. Unless these break down and invalidate this, you're probably good, even if it comes down a certain percentage. I would be asking a different question. What do I need to do if I believe in XDC at 24 cents with my almost 20,000 tokens if it comes down to 15 cents and I want to hold? Well, that would mean you bought, let's just say you spent $4,600 on those 19,500, because that's roughly what you spent. About 4,600, I would say. No, maybe a little bit less. We'll call it 4,500. Now you need to understand, if it goes down and you want to hold and you feel, because if you bought it there, you have to have bought it for a reason. And it wasn't for FOMO, unless you bought the FOMO up from this 14 up, which is possible. But you've got to now work this. What if it does come down here? So if you're willing to hold it, I would say that's maybe a little, but let's say it fills out that exhaustion, which I don't think it will because it did it on the other side to invalidate this. But let's say it does come down here for whatever reason, it comes down 20%, but it holds. Now, if you have $4,500 and you're going to try to put in somewhere between $450 and $900 to try to bring that average down, if you have it, you know, that would be the proper philosophy. And then if it breaks this structure, you're out of the way. But yeah, that's 46%. But here's the deal. You get out of the way there. Let's just say you have to get out of the way and you've been buying it all the way down. And then you finally say, I'm done. This double bottom broke. Then you're like, I'm going to wait for a reset. Well, be careful with that too, because you got a wider inverse head and shoulders. So just because it invalidates the micro, if it comes down here, it technically won't invalidate. But let's just say it came down and had that overall breakdown. Well, now it has to drop down 66% more. So now from what you accumulated up to that, let's call it 13 cent area, 13.5. Now if you had the swabness and it did come down there, now you could buy it back 66% cheaper. Yes, your portfolio is smaller, but your holdings have exponentially grown. We got to invalidate that bull flag there, though, and everything else. So we don't know if it was a bad buy. At this point, I think overall, no, it's not going to feel like a bad buy. In the micro, it may. But overall, no, I don't necessarily think it was. We were buying each at 5 cents in the community in FOMO Friday and winning Wednesdays in 23. So, yeah, that's a far cry from buying it at 5, selling it at 40, and then trying to rebuy back in on an inverse pattern. But I mean, we had a significant push up to 40 cents, and we were buying the support in 23 by support, sell, resistance. Remember when we were buying support and we were selling resistance? Now you are essentially in reaccumulation, no man's land, so to say, but you try to play this inverse head and shoulders. So I don't mind where you're trying to take this shot. Here you have an inverse head and shoulders. You have a bull flag on top of a daily golden cross that's trying to back test. If you're ever going to take a shot to see if it plays out, this would be the time to take the shot. You know, it's either that's going to happen, it's going to stay within this 20% range, or it all comes unglued. And to put it, if we don't have a bull cycle this cycle, we go into an extended crypto market, crypto winter. So we'll see what happens.